As usual, we will give you our support.
In his intervention, the principal of the school, Alpha Khan, recognizes the importance of this move expected to bring to fruition the goals of the institution. Samuel Ba, GRTS.
We now take our first break. We'll be right back.
Ready? Are you ready for an extreme summer concert?
Sometimes I get a good feeling.
Pull it up, selector. Saturday, 7 July, live at the Independence Stadium in Bacau. It's the AfriSoul Extreme Concert. In collaboration with the American Embassy, AfriSoul brings you this summer's biggest concert.
Come celebrate with AfriCell the grand launching of the AfriCell website, www.africell.gm, live at the Independence Stadium on Saturday, the 7th of July.
I'm gonna take over. AfriSoul Extreme Concert with the U.S. Embassy, featuring
Epiphany, all the way from the United States,
G, Singate, Jalix, and many more of your favorite Gambian artists.
AfriCell Extreme Concert in partnership with the U.S. Embassy. Saturday, 7th July at the Independence Stadium. Entry is absolutely free. And the concert will be broadcasted live on 107.6 FM. Let the fun begin.
Former Congolese militia chief Thomas Lubanga has been given a 14-year prison sentence by the International Criminal Court. Lubanga has been found guilty of recruiting child soldiers in Congo's bitter civil conflict. The former Congolese warlord's conviction is the first at the International Criminal Court. We have details of that story in this report.
Wearing a grey jacket and a white shirt, Thomas Lubanga looks like he is not even there. As his sentence is announced, there is almost no expression on his face.
The majority sentences Mr. Lubanga for having committed jointly with other persons the crime of using children under the age of 15 to participate actively in hostilities to 14 years imprisonment.
14 years in prison for having spread terror in the region of Ituri, in the north of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Thomas Lubanga, who led the Union of Congolese Patriots, was found guilty by the International Criminal Court of recruiting and deploying child soldiers during a 5-year-long conflict in the area. Hundreds of thousands of people died in the civil war, according to NGOs. As the 3-year trial finally came to an end, the victims were welcoming the sentence given to the former warlord.
We are satisfied because this is a sort of public revenge. Revenge of justice. Because the victims couldn't have taken revenge on their own, if you know what I mean. But there remains a very important aspect. That's the question of compensation, which will be discussed at a future hearing.
This is the first sentence handed down by the International Criminal Court since it was created 10 years ago. Many NGOs are warning that Thomas Lubanga should not be the only one, that other criminals must also be convicted.
Thousands of desperate civilians are fleeing from the epicenter of the fighting between heavily armed M23 rebels and Congolese government troops. There has been intense fighting between fighters loyal to renegade General Bosco Ntaganda and poorly equipped government troops in the North Kivu region. Government forces have been chased out of many strategic towns in the east of the country. For more on that, we turn to the CFI report.
In eastern DR Congo, civilians are fleeing for their lives. Families with children overloaded with belongings, also stragglers from the federal army on the road. The rebel M23 movement, comprising mutineers from the government army, pulled out of Rutshuru after capturing the strategic town last week.
We heard shooting, so my mother told me to get our things and to run away to Goma. I have been walking since this morning. I left my brothers and sisters somewhere behind. They told me to wait for them at the barrier.
They attacked yesterday morning. Then they cut the Kalangera road, so we had to flee this way.
The rebels are gathering strength as UN peacekeepers attempt to protect the main civilian centers. The fighting in North Kivu is sparking fears the country could be dragged back into civil war.
We will pull back when we see things are normal. We will leave the area in the hands of the MONUSCO and the National Police. They will keep it and maintain peace for the civilians there.
The M23 fighters have withdrawn into the jungle of the Virunga National Park to await the response from Kinshasa to their demands. But there's no indication the government is ready to negotiate.
Senegal's former ruling party has been dealt a crushing defeat at the recently concluded parliamentary polls. The Senegalese Democratic Party of former President Wade won a meager 9 seats compared to 131 in the previous assembly. Despite these huge losses, PDS top brass is defiant about the future of the party. Officials are planning to remobilize the party's power base with the staging of a convention to choose Wade's successor. We have more on that in this report.
Though it has only 9 deputies in the newly elected parliament, compared to 131 in the previous one, the PDS Senegalese Democratic Party is still refusing to describe the most recent elections as a total disaster.
In this voting system, if your party has a majority in a department or state, you take all the seats in that state. So the ruling party in the system is lucky. It manages to take a maximum number of seats. But given the current political context and what we've experienced with party officials being arrested or facing problems, getting even this number of seats shows that the party is still functioning. It'll come back as a winner.
The non-final results made public by the National Voting Commission do, however, show a major defeat for the PDS. The current ruling coalition parties scored a major victory, taking 119 of the 150 seats. The PDS made its worst showing in elections since 1978.
When Wade started to become very unpopular, this could only have had a poor effect on the functioning of his party. And this is what happened, I think. Number two, his party appeared to have a strong support among political activists, but it ran into a wall based on the party patronage system. The activists flocked to the party because they benefited from the good jobs and positions that he handed out to supporters. Suddenly, Wade had very little to distribute to the activists as he lost power, so they simply abandoned him and joined forces with other politicians.
Far from throwing in the towel, PDS officials said they were remobilizing the party rank and file. A party convention is scheduled before the end of the year. This will give party activists the time to choose a replacement for Abdoulaye Wade, who stood at the head of the party for 37 years.
We now take our second break. Stay tuned.
It's traditional that your national GSM provider, Gamcell, takes many of its valuable customers to Mecca each year. This year again, Gamcell will offer 10 more of its valuable customers a complete Hajj package in a draw to be held live on GRTS television. Yes, your Hajj is possible by simply loading $50 scratch card or Nopal. You can win not only a return ticket to Mecca, but also $1,000 travel allowance, food and accommodation in Medina and Mecca. Remember, the more you load $50 scratch card or Nopal, the more you increase your winning chance. With Gamcell, your Hajj is now easier. Gamcell, yay baron.
Well, welcome back. And before we go, reminder of our headlines. President Jammeh has told cabinet ministers on a 2-day retreat in Kanilai there's a lot to celebrate when the July 22nd revolution clocks 18. Government has made a call for universal access to family planning in a commemorative statement read by the Vice President and Women's Affairs Minister. Former Congolese warlord Thomas Lubanga has received a 14-year jail term for his role in conscripting child soldiers in Congo's civil conflict. Thousands of desperate civilians fleeing heavy fighting between Congolese soldiers and M23 fighters are making the great trek towards the strategically important eastern city of Goma. You can follow those stories and other GRTS programs live on our website at www.grts.gm. There you can also monitor GRTS Radio Live. That brings us to the end of this edition of the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of our programs and join us at 10.